Okay, so good morning again. Um, Today I thought I would look at again. This is something I come back to again and again. Is anchoring. Um, and bear in mind when I talk about anchoring, it is within the context of the open awareness and being with whatever is present. So I'd just like to distinguish really between um, anchoring, because you can use any, more or less any object really. It's up to you. You can use the breath, which is an obvious one, um, and quite useful. The slight problem with the breath I find sometimes is I can get almost by default um, start doing the mindfulness of breathing and become a little bit too focused, or I can bring with me some unhelpful habits that I've got into anyway, of over efforting and that kind of stuff that can kick in. Although it gets less, I think, if you do this kind of practice, it's a bit of an antidote to over efforting. So anchoring, you can use, I often use my thumbs, because it's a convenient object. It's, with my hands on my lap and my hands overlapping and my thumbs touching. It's a very obvious physical sensation that can be used. And it's quite relatively interesting one, because most sensations are kind of on the neutral level, unless they're painful or very pleasant. Um, so what's helpful with this method, I would say, is to, rather than using it as a focus, there is some focus obviously, but rather than using it as a sensation to become absorbed in and to examine and to hone in on or become one pointed, you're using it almost as a post to steady um, the attention. So you're not steadying awareness, because obviously awareness is, in this practice, is the view that awareness is always present, as it were, whether we know it or not. So the knowing, the clocking, the noting, the noticing is the key, the sampajana. And with that, an appreciation of the wholesomeness or unwholesomeness of whatever is being noticed, whatever is in awareness. And that can be many things. So if mindfulness is relatively weak, which is a lot of the time for me anyway, I can use this method as a reminder, as it were. So the placing of the attention on the breath or the thumbs, whichever you choose, or it can be any other object, is, as I say, to use it as a post to hold on to and hold on to very lightly. So it's almost as if you're just touching it to remind, as a reminder that awareness is present. And because if you can notice the sensation of the thumbs or the sensation of the breath, there's a degree of sampajana present. There's a degree of continuity, and the breath or the thumbs are a relatively continuous or repetitive sensation. So it's arising again and again and again in each moment. And from that, you can then start to include, but this is where it differs somewhat or not entirely, where it differs somewhat from the mindfulness of breathing, so that you're placing a small amount of one's attention on that sensation. Yeah. Not to kind of collapse in on it or look at it directly, but just to, that's there, it's there, oh, it's still there, it's still there, it's still there. And while you're noticing that, as it were, open the attention, the field of attention, to include as much as possible. And what you can start to notice then, and this is about noticing rather than imposing, as it were, is that there will be lots of other sensations constantly arising in awareness, and there will be thoughts arising in awareness, and sounds arising in awareness, and you may also notice that they, when they cease. Yeah. So you will, if the attention is on the breath, or the anchoring object, and you're noticing many arisings and passings, as it were. So you may just notice that things are arriving in awareness, as it were, or awareness is arriving at, including different objects. And the breath or the thumbs is an indication of continuity. So it's a very, very, very light attention. Very, very light. And almost as if, you know, you can do this most of the time. You can touch your thumbs, and you can look around, and you can notice what's going on simultaneously. You don't have to. It's very easy, you know, to notice the sensations, and it is just noticing. Yeah, barely. The attention is so light. And then what you are noticing is noticing all of the other objects. And as you start to notice that they arise and pass away, that is an indication that awareness or mindfulness, awareness is always there, but the mindfulness aspect is increasing in depth and stability. Yeah. So then you can drop the anchor. So the anchor is only there to be used if one is not noticing, so it's having that sense of sitting back, relaxing, and noticing that thoughts are arising, sensations are arising, images are arising, sounds are arising. And there may be also a degree of subtle pleasure, or sometimes a kind of loveliness to that experience when mindfulness is becoming a bit more established. And noticing awareness is taking in many objects moment by moment. And that is an indication that momentary concentration is starting to arise as well. And that can be noticed. Concentration, mindfulness is becoming a bit stronger. Yeah. So that's all I'll say about that. And if you're noticing many objects already, and you're noticing that they arise and they pass, then you don't need to do the anchoring. It's not necessary. In fact, if you then started to focus on one object, you more likely start to become one-pointed, and that's not what we're trying to do in this practice. Although it is a good practice in itself, obviously. It provides a degree of continuity, and it provides a depth of concentration that also supports and helps this practice. So they work together, but not necessarily, you don't do them both at the same time. They're counterproductive. Yeah. Although they both inform each other, so it's an interesting dynamic. Okay, so set oneself up for a period of sitting. And I'll mute myself because my cat is being a bit capricious this morning with food. Yeah.